We all ready? All right, good morning. Welcome to Drainage District number 34, Lateral A. Meeting the supervisors acting as trustees for Drainage District number 34, Lateral A. Will meet to hold a continuation hearing in said district. First, I'll call this meeting to order. Next, I'll seek a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes.
So moved. Seconded.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, I'll open this drainage hearing at 11:11 a.m. And then I'll turn it over to McClure to provide the engineer's report.
Thank you to the Board of Supervisors. My name is Luke Huggins, and I also want to thank the landowners from DD 34 and some of the farmers I know that are in there. Again, I'm with McClure Engineering, our office one block away. So if you ever have drainage questions on really anything, feel free to stop in and talk to one of us. I'm based out of this office, and a lot of the field staff that work through these are as well as some of the draftsmen. The reason we're here today, this is a continuation hearing, as was mentioned. So we did have one hearing, I think it was back in September, where we covered the original engineer's report that was submitted. And the reason we did that was because the Board of Supervisors reached out and said, hey, you did a report 10 years ago. And by Iowa code, if it's more than 10 years old, then we need it updated, being able to act on it. So that's what brought us to that meeting. And then there was some discussion that wanted to be had and some more time to deliberate with the landowners as we were getting close to harvest. So hopefully you all have had a chance to look through that original report. And then we went ahead and put together an amendment because at that meeting, we were asked to look at one more option where we only improve the lateral A tile, which I'll go over here in just a minute. So that's kind of what gets us here today. What I'm going to cover in general, if you recall, if you were at that last meeting, there was about 10 different maps and 10 different cost estimates and different profiles. And it got kind of confusing because I don't know if you know this, but you all are blessed with a very confusing drainage district. So we will navigate these muddy waters together this morning. And so looking at what I'm going to cover, I'm going to start off by just doing a general about capacity in drainage systems. And so does anyone remember from that hearing or in the past what the minimum recommendation is for drainage capacity for a drainage coefficient for any drainage district work? Got a ½ inch. Correct answer. So a ½ inch is how many inches per day per acre that you want to be able to design the main tile for. So a ½ inch per acre per day. So that's a minimum requirement that's been put out there by various studies from Iowa State and others in the ag field to determine that with modern day pattern tiling systems, we want to have at least a ½ inch that we can drain every day. And so when we look at the system in general, we start off by figuring out what is the capacity of it. And so that's the first step we do. And then we look at the potential options after that. And so each of you have this little pamphlet I handed out with just one exhibit. If you want to flip to that exhibit, I'll use my big one here and I'll point to try to keep us all on the same page. But when you look at the red line and the blue line down there, the two side by side right to the ditch, as you all know, those were updated back in around 2012, 2013, somewhere in there, to improve the capacity for then the lateral tile lines or relief tile lines in the purple. So there was one original in purple and the one next to it was a relief line that was put in back then too. So the purpose of that project was to increase that capacity. What we found in our report 10 years ago and in this report, the capacity of the blue line and the red line down there going to the ditch is about 0.41 to 0.43. It kind of depends how you look at specifics of the pipe. But either way, not quite 0.5 inches that we want for the minimum requirement. So our original report looked at options where you had to add another tile line down there next to the red, next to the blue, and add a third line so that we could at least get that 0.5 inches. Now there's other options that look at 0.75. So then you got a 3/4 inch drainage coefficient. So obviously put in a bigger pipe and improve that section down there. So those were the basis premise of the capacity that we looked at in that original report. Then as far as types of projects, you could do a full pipe replacement. So again, this petition was for the orange line called lateral A1. So that's what we're originally looking at improving. So we're not looking at any of the purple lines as far as improvement goes. Those were done in 2012, 2013 era. We're looking at the orange one. So then as far as options, we look at replacement or adding a relief tile. So there's pros and cons to those. If you add a relief tile, then obviously you're leaving the existing one in there and putting one right next to it. But then you still got the maintenance and upkeep of the old tile, which I think the drainage district was established in 1909. So it's a pretty old tile. It's 10 years older, obviously, than it was 10 years ago when we first looked at it, and we had a relief tile option. We included that relief tile option again in this updated report, but I wanted to be clear that, you'd still have to maintain that pipe. And the folks who are on that side of it, and they're not on the new lateral tile side, they potentially would just be draining into the old pipe and be subject to future maintenance issues moving forward. On the replacement side, you're using a bigger pipe then. If you didn't have, two pipes, you're just depending on the one. With a larger pipe, you might have less cover. If you can't lower it, there might be some of those capacity issues you got to look at. But we were able to include options for that full replacement as well. So I personally tend to lean towards the replacements, again, to get rid of that aspect of additional maintenance for the old line moving forward. So those are some of the things that we look at as far as types of improvements and capacity. And so those options were put in there, and then we put together this report amendment. And so the additional option that we looked at, like I mentioned, the capacity on that lower end was 0.41 to 0.43, not quite 0.5. But when we left the last hearing, we were asked to put together an additional option where you don't improve any of that blue or red. You leave that as is, since that was done in 2012, 2013. And you just improve this orange line, the lateral A1, with a replacement tile. So that's what our report amendment did. We also went back because a couple of the folks mentioned they talked to a local plastic pipe rep, and some of the unit costs that they saw were more expensive than what we had in the original report. So we decided to look more broadly at bids across the state and put those costs in. So it did increase the costs. So in the summary that you have in front of you, those are going to be increased costs compared to the original report, because again, we wanted to be more on the conservative side here, given that prices have increased and we saw a differing opinion between some suppliers compared to others and from one side of the state to the other. So we just kind of found a general average on what some of these costs would be. So then finally, I want to talk about who pays for what, because I know that was a big question in the last one as well. So when there's a project that's done and there's an improvement, meaning we increase the capacity in the pipe, a lot of times what happens is there's a reclassification, and that means an engineer and two landowners who are not part of the district that the county appoints, they figure out what is the calculation that each person should have to pay for their portion of a project. So this district was reclassified a couple different times since the 2012 project. And so what that does then is anything that's done just on this orange line, in this lateral A1 line, will only be paid for by the folks in this blue dashed watershed line. Okay, so if it's just work on that orange line, only the people in that blue dashed line around it would be paying for work on that. Now, since everybody on the purple lines drain through the red and the blue line, and everybody in that the yellow-orange lateral A line also drain to the red and blue, everybody within the yellow boundary would pay for work on the blue and red area if we needed to add a tile there. So so that's clarified there. It's not that everybody in this entire area would pay for any work on the line we're looking at today, the yellow or yellowish orange line. It would just be the folks within that blue watershed dash line. Okay. And so to look at a couple of the costs, just to compare, I went back to our report from 10 years ago. And so the option I'd have you look at right now would be option E1. So the second to last one on your cost summary sheet. So this would be the scenario I just mentioned where we'd only be replacing the orange line with a brand new tile. So there'd be one tile in there, bigger pipe size, hopefully a little deeper, hopefully a little steeper grade if we can get to it to improve capacity. So you wouldn't have a relief tile next to it or anything. And then not doing anything to that blue and red line area. So we're not going to add any tile there. So that cost to just do that would be about $1.4 million. Again, only assessed to those folks within that blue dashed watershed. So that $1.4 million, I looked at that same option that was presented 10 years ago, and it was $590,000 estimate. So I mean, you all are more aware than most, I'm sure, that the inflation costs that have gone up, and especially since COVID and 2020 timeframe. We've seen that throughout construction in the last 10 years, both in the municipal side and in more rural settings. But just to show, basically, again, that same option was $590,000, is now estimated at 1.4 million. So, you know, there is a cost to deferring the work, but conditions could change for the better too. And the other disclaimer I would give, although this is an estimate, of course, we would hope that bidding conditions would be good when we go ahead and go out to bid if you also choose. And then, you know, maybe prices come in better, since some of the bids we look at were in those more dense settings and into cities and that kind of thing for the same kind of stormwater pipe. So it might be easier for some contractors to come out and dig out in the open, and gives you some better prices. So with that, that's kind of a general overview. And again, I've got, you've got those summaries in front of you with the different options. And so each of those, although it looks like a lot, are a combination of those that I mentioned, where you either have a relief line, an additional line down in the bottom, a replacement line for that upper side, and a new line on the bottom, or some combination of those. And then the newest option being, we won't do anything to the bottom, and only the folks on that upper end would pay for an improvement to their pipe. So with that, I'll stop talking for a little bit and open it up to any questions any of y'all might have.
There is someone online.
Don Sandell, which of these options is upgrading line A1 and from here to the ditch?
So most of those options would do that. It'd be dependent on if you wanted a replacement line or a relief line. Yes. And again, there's the other options in there. The reason there's so many, you have the 1/2 inch drainage coefficient options, 3/4 inch drainage coefficient options, and then concrete pipe versus plastic pipe. So that's why there's so many there.
All right, thank you, Luke, and we will open it up to oral comments here in a minute. Next up is written comments. Crystal, Shauna, you have any written comments?
You have none.
Okay, just a second.
I did receive forwarded emails from AJ Blair from the Sandell Family Farm, which is in the northwest quarter of 18 Burnside Township, in support of this project. Kay Bessler, the southeast quarter section of 13 Clay, and the Freed Trust, Miriam Page, on the northwest quarter section of 13 Clay as well, in support of that. Next is oral comments. We'll open up to the floor.
Have their specific comments?
Yeah, I do. Okay. On behalf of the Sandell Family Farm LLC, we're in favor of upgrading the county drainage tile lateral A relief main, Drainage District 34, Webster County, Iowa. Thank you for your continued efforts to gather information and share with us for the upcoming happenings on the farm. Sincerely, Jay McClelland, and that's the Sandell Family Farm. Yes, I'm in favor of the county tile drainage project to upgrade the drainage on the Freed Family Farm. Miriam Page, trustee, the Freed Family Trust. And Kay Bessler. I don't know if I see the whole email here. Oh yeah, see attached memo for approval on drainage. It's just not opening here. The memo is my approval for the upgrade to the lateral A relief main Drainage District 34 in Webster County, Iowa. Kay Bessler. So those are the 3 letters I had in support. Now we can open up to the floor for comments.
Thanks, Kevin Force. I just have a couple questions. What's the capacity of the orange line already?
Yeah, generally speaking, the capacity of the orange line is a little less than 1/4 inch per day.
And the breakdown cost per acre for the people in the yellow. Just replace that revenue, you add the revenue.
We don't have that calculated right now, just because we looked at the whole project. We would have to plug in that specific cost to one of the reclassification schedules in order to get that. So we don't have that yet today. But we could get it fairly quickly, working with Crystal and getting that schedule.
Any other comments?
One more I'd have, going off memory, on that, along that same line. I believe the work on that lower area was about $290,000 if you did the concrete addition of another pipe for a 1/2 inch coefficient. And so if you took $290,000 divided by 2,273 acres, that would get you roughly just a general average. Yep. Yeah, so his question was, if it gets replaced from the ditch all the way up that line, is everybody gonna pay? And so I've kind of piggyback on his question that the folks in the full yellow boundary would pay for any improvements along the alignment of that red and blue tile, those two.
Just that one.
That's all that everybody would pay for, and then anything past that point, only the folks up above there would pay for.
So we're at $1,600 an acre and we add this as well, also get higher.
So, yeah, so he asked those bottom two options where you see the average dollar per acre, would that $1,600 per acre go up? Well, the difference there is those bottom options are calculated only with the 830 acres in that dashed line. So then any work on that lower portion would be spread out over a general part. So it would be, something closer to the option C1 as far as a general one. But again, we would have to work with the schedules to get an exact for what your specific farm might be assessed. Yep.
Luke, did you guys check in anything above 290th Street there on Old Highway 50, kind of where that turns and it's been backing up water? Mike Selichek was here on that first meeting and mentioned that.
Yep. So the engineer that worked with us on that, the one that was here last time, he no longer works for McClure. He took another job after taking paternity leave. And so I wasn't made aware of if he looked into that prior to me taking it back over, but I personally have not. No.
Any other comments from the floor?
Todd Anderson. Anderson's owned ground in section 13, or yes, the northeast quarter, and the southwest quarter. And I don't feel we need to replace anything. The water flow this last year, we had over 20 inches of rain that came in June and July. We lost very little ground. There's no blowouts, there's no washouts, there's no issues. It might be a little slow, but I don't think it's worth the money that this investment will cost everybody to do this. So.
Thank you, Todd. Any other comments?
And David, yeah, this piece right here, we're heading across the bend. Jack, it's a no. He's been dug up enough.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
Question. Much input as y'all in this area can give to us, the better, so we can make an educated decision on this. Additionally, Luke, you were saying that is legally required to be at a 1/4 inch? Or recommended?
It's a minimum requirement as far as design standards. There's no legal requirement for it. It's just a recommendation, if you will.
Essentially, this is your guys' money. We just want to make the best decision on behalf of the landowners to do what's best with your pocketbooks. So appreciate all the feedback.
The plastic pipe,
What's your name?
oh, AJ Blair, and the plastic pipe, I talked to Prinsco, it's substantially cheaper. And they're confident in it as long as it's bedded correctly, as long as the contractor does a good job. Obviously, it'll last forever in the ground. It's just a matter of maintaining structural integrity, but he said as long as it's done correctly, they didn't have a problem with that, and that's a substantial savings on the project. So the ground I farm over this, we lose crop quite a bit. We put quite a bit of it into CRP, which will be coming back out, hoping to increase some yields. We get a lot of blowouts, a lot of tile fixes on it. So the old tile is going away, and these farms, we're working on pattern tiling them, but you can only do so much with a 1/4 inch drainage coefficient. So, we're looking at over 100-year life. It's been over 100-year life cycle on these farms, and these landowners are ready to invest, I think. And it'll give them, it's the next 100 years that we're paying for here. So that's all I have.
Thank you, AJ.
Sandell. I just wanted to address Todd Anderson's about not losing crop this year. That Sandell family farm piece in that you got approval for. I farmed that place for 42 years, and you lose a lot of crop on that thing. We had dry subsoils this year. The rain, excess rain that we did soak down. When we get a full water table down there, this stuff has to go out through a tile. And I've also farmed that one that AJ mentioned, that Freed Family Trust. Yeah, is that it? Yeah. I farmed that for about 15 years at least. And that area that's in CRP, there were years I planted that 3 times and still didn't get a crop. And it's all because insufficient outlet to carry the excess rain away. And I think over a 20-year, or in one case 42 years, I think that gives us a little better perspective than 1 year on this thing. And it's not uncommon at all to, well, that Sandell family farms one, we'd lose it anywhere from 10 to 30 acres, at least 1 year out of 3. And nothing's going to solve it except getting this main updated.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Crystal, did you have anything in code specifically you wanted to address?
Just based on the clarifying for Board of Supervisors purposes. So I believe all of these are listed as an improvement then, not just a repair. So for 468.126 subsection 4B, when the board determines that an improvement is necessary or desirable and feasible, the board shall appoint an engineer to make surveys and continue the project. Basically, there's more language in there, but so it's those words that you need to think of too: necessary or desirable and feasible.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Luke, is your recommendation E1, option E1?
Yeah, I would lean on the landowners and farmers who would be using the tile as far as the specific material, but generally speaking, from what I've heard, I would go with a replacement option such as E1 or E2. And again, I wouldn't look at the relief tile options if you wanted to look at any of the others. If the landowners were open to increasing that capacity on the lower end, then, and you still want a 1/2 inch to keep the cost down, which is what I'm hearing, then again, 1/2 inch per day coefficient and replacement options would be the ones that I'd be looking at. So it would be basically not the A or B options, any of the ones below that.
Don, if you can come to the microphone, just so the ones online can hear.
Yeah, so I'd say, I'm kind of generalizing it here, but I would recommend a replacement option rather than a relief tile option. And if you want a 1/2 inch drainage coefficient, then you'd be looking at, for a replacement, it would be option C1 or C2 or option E1 or E2. I guess because D would be the 3/4 inch, so.
So if we go with E1 or E2, is that gonna restrict the drainage on line B that was replaced 10 years ago?
Your outlet capacity is still going to be the same for both, so
But as of right now, we're not using, a 1/2 inch up here, because that tile won't hold it. So are we gonna get enough more in this from the junction box to the bulkhead? Are we gonna get enough more extra water out of that line A1 to reduce our flow?
I mean, I can't say that it would reduce it. It'd probably depend on, I mean, it's going to be the same outlet no matter what for both. So if one's reduced, they'd both be, I mean, if one is capped at 0.41 or 0.43, they both will be. So whether that means they're both backed up for a little bit longer a time, either way, the ground from that entire area, as the numbers would show, would be that they'd at least drain that 0.41 inches per day.
Well, I guess my point is, I don't own land on A1, but I do own land on B. And I don't want to see our capacity reduced from D. If we had more open space on that line A over to the ditch, then we will have more flow on line A1. But I'd like to see that. I don't want to lose capacity on line B.
Yeah, my understanding, again, that lower relief line, the blue line that's above the red line, those two combined were sized for 0.41 inches per day for the entire yellow boundary. So, if you imagine none of the other tiles were there, that's what those sections were designed for. So even if the southern part, that lateral B and its relief line are using more of that 0.41 capacities today, those were sized for, that whole area for that reason, in case the lateral A1 was improved one day. So so I mean, his point is he wants to see it improve down above that red line and that blue line. So there's more capacity for the entire area is what I'm hearing. Yeah. Okay.
Don, when you and I went out and looked, is that a tile there on the drainage ditch? Is that underwater or was that above water? It comes out to that bulkhead? Right, right. Above, okay.
I just have a quick question. When they did this red and blue line back in 2012, 2013, and they only did it to 0.4, why didn't they do it to 0.5 then?
They had the same question, yeah. Was Murray Engineering at fault for that?
And if I did my arithmetic right, for replacing that section at $290,000 for 2,273 acres is $127 an acre for all of the rest of us, which seems ridiculous.
Thanks, sir. Any others? All right, if not, I'll close this hearing at 11:40 a.m. Next is to accept and place on file the amended engineer's report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Next is to allow repair and improvement. If we are proceeding with the repair improvement option, needs to be selected out of the 8 different options we have here. Or 10, sorry. So your recommendation, Luke, was C1, C2, E1, or E2 if we did decide to move forward?
From what I'm hearing today, that would be correct. So 1/2 inch drainage coefficient with the replacement tile.
What I have written down, it's about a 50-50 split of landowners in the district in favor and against. Yeah, but you can come and talk on this agenda item. I don't think that's a problem.
Johnson Hill. I guess I would respectfully disagree with Kent on the $127 being excessive. That's what we spend on seed corn every year. I mean, it's not excessive when you think of this over many, many years. I mean, like I said, we spend that on seed corn and sometimes on fertilizer every year. So anyway, thank you.
I see a couple people online. Do either one, I mean, I know they're both marked as not being able to speak right now, but if they want to unmute, just raise your hand. Make some sort of icon so that way you can unmute, because I don't know, they haven't had a chance yet either. I mean, yeah, if you want. That's fine with me, I guess. They should be able to unmute now. So.
You know why this originally wasn't designed at the 1/2 inch? Or is,
I don't know. Back in 2012, 2013, I do not know. That was prior drainage clerk, prior board members, unless.
Yeah, you're told me, very much here. This was all set up. Murray.
Discuss with the
yeah. Because we haven't made a motion for anything yet, so I'm wondering if.
AJ, go ahead.
Yeah, AJ again. I don't know where we stand as far as the remonstrance numbers, so I don't know if anybody's pulled that, but just maybe something we need to come
I'd
down
say with
to
the
and
changing of numbers, they're
let,
a little.
let people know,
First meeting.
yeah, where they stand and just, yeah.
Right.
That would help you guys make a decision, I think.
I know the landowners that you had emails from were okay at that price point from earlier, correct? And then now it's changed, so. Yep.
But for remonstrance, since there is part for lateral A and part for just lateral A1, is that 2 different ones?
Yeah, I
I've never
think
been through this, so I'm asking.
I would of course defer to legal representation from the county, but in my mind, since there's 2 different assessment schedules you'd be looking at, we could look at the costs separately for the wider watershed and the individual lateral A watershed separately as 2 different remonstrances.
I would say with the ones we do have in support, some of them aren't here today. There's been some price changes, so it may be best to table this again and reconvene at a later date again. I know that delays us even further, but I know there's been some price changes from the last meeting.
I'll move to table.
Time.
Give me a second. December,
Just doing 2
the
weeks
next
or do you
board
want
meeting. Yes, I was going to look for that day.
December 16th isn't. Yeah, is that?
Then the next one's the 30th.
Have to advertise again too.
We didn't have to advertise. I did for Cassandra and I did courteous because landowners requested it to have letters mailed out to everyone again, but it did not have to be published since it's a continuation.
Then the 30th or the 13th of January. Do you guys have plans for New Year's? 30th of December would be the 30th, and then there's the 13th of January. Those would be giving them about a month.
I've often foregone the last meeting on a
I'm
Tuesday.
gonna go ahead and move for the 13th of January.
Enough time and
Yep. I didn't know about the 30th. Do we go or no?
do you want to make that motion, John?
Okay, I would move to table this until the 11 o'clock after our regular scheduled board meeting on January, I believe I said the 13th. January,
January 13th.
not the next board, because the next one's the. Do we think we can get it done by December 16th?
It's kind of a quick turnaround.
How about you guys? Would you rather do it on the December 16th or would you rather do it on January 13th and come back and do this? Doesn't know. I was kind of thinking.
I'll
too.
second that motion.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, if there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you. Austin, Nick.